So this is another bedtime podcast. Just lying in my bed. I've got a relatively fancy microphone. Well, it's not that fancy. Hanging off the headboard just above me, so I can just lie down. I can get a reasonable quality podcast. And, I have lots of thoughts pouring in just before I go into bed. Because like most people, I'm, just constantly at it all day. And, I think I still don't take enough time out to just allow myself to receive my thoughts and express what they mean, or at least understand what they mean to me. And that's one thing I've learnt throughout my life, is that every thought is relevant. Every thought is a gift. And, that meditation technique of just following your thoughts until they run out with choiceless awareness, where there's no judgment. You're just observing your thoughts. I think that's a wonderful practice, but I think it misses the point, because the point of a thought is meaning. It's to uncover the meaning. What does that thought mean? And if you're meditating, you're deciding that it's meaningless. And that's perfect for that kind of thing, because that leads into the topic I'm about to talk about, which is a bit deeper than what I've been going in the other audios. But it's about a state of having no body. So the state of having no mind is quite common, or quite well known to people who do meditation. It's a state of being pure presence. Some people call it the state of being I am, which is before the state of I am that. It's the state of I am. It means that here and now I am. And that's a state of oneness. It's a state of wholeness, of that there's just one thing. And so like a human being lying here in bed, my body, it's one thing. And that's the state of I am. I am. But when you are in a state of I am that, it means that I am here, and over there is something other than me. So that's a state of separation. I am that. I am that. But what's widely misunderstood is that the state of I am that can come from the perspective of that also being one, you see. Because it's I am that, and I am that, and I am that, and I am that. And so the perspective to apply that to your body would be that I am, and then looking at your arm and going, I am that. Looking at your other arm, I am that. Looking at your feet, I am that. I am that I am, that I am, that I am. And so from the perspective of knowing that you are whole, you are one thing, and you are separate, it's a paradox. Which one's true? Both. Which one's false? Both. Because from the perspective of I am that, but not this, then it invalidates the other perspective, you see. So the paradox is it comes from every angle. I am one, and I am separate, and I am neither. And both. So it goes four ways. I am one, and I'm separate, and I am both, and I am neither. And they're all true and false. You got to love paradoxes, because It's all just a matter of perspective. It's all a matter of perspective. And you could have a conversation with a human being, and from their perspective, they're only aware of being an individual that's separate to everything. Does that make their perspective wrong? Of course not. And then you could be having a conversation with an individual who truly experiences their life as being one thing, observing itself in another person, living their life and having a conversation with another human being and experiencing it as connecting with itself. Is that right? Yes and no. It's not right to the person that doesn't have that perspective. And so it's so important that we understand that the universe is a paradox, that every truth is valid. There is no, there's no ultimate truth separate to the truth within ourselves. And so you could feel a truth within yourself that was so true to you. You just knew it. You knew it was true. You could feel it in your bones. You got goosebumps. It resonates. You feel your heart opening. You feel yourself stepping into your power. And then you could express that truth to someone else. And they'd be like, huh? What? Nah. Who's right? Both. And who's wrong? Both. And neither. And none. Oh. But can you sense the freedom in that? Because you can just allow it. You can just allow the person who opposes your perspective to just be who they are. They're not wrong from their perspective. Can you express yourself in a way that alters their perspective? Of course. Of course. But you never go into it, launching into it, seeking to invalidate their perspective. That's foolish. It's unaware. It's unevolved. And so we see this all the time. It happens absolutely anywhere. And when we bring this, method into the aspects of our life where we need consensus between parties, it just becomes a mess. Because everyone has a unique perspective. And unless you can reconcile the disharmony between everyone's perspective in that group, then even if there is verbal consensus, there's still disharmony, and that disharmony will play out in the long run. So it's in everyone's best interest that you always begin with the ideal scenario from everyone involved, and then you fill in the space. What's your ideal scenario? This. What's your ideal scenario? That. There could be 12 people in the room. Everyone lays out their ideal scenario, and then you reconcile back from there. But you never get yourself into a scenario where you've reached consensus, but people have held back their ideal scenario. And so that disharmony will have to play out in the experiences of everyone involved. Because the highest potential is programmed into the being of everyone. So unless you enable everyone to express that straight away, the universe and your nature and the nature of everyone is seeking it anyway. And so any resistance you have to it being revealed will just be shattered, and it will be it could be painful, humiliating, embarrassing, all these things, when you could have just shared yourself in the beginning. And, sharing yourself, it's not, lots of people think, they say that, I didn't feel comfortable expressing myself, or so-and-so didn't invite me to this. And, it is no one's job to make it easy other than yours. It's your responsibility to share yourself and muster the courage to experience the consequences of that. If you have to allow yourself to feel vulnerable and that feels extremely uncomfortable, that's no one else's responsibility. Because the truth, the ultimate truth, is that the environment that you're within and attempting to express yourself in and not feeling comfortable doing so is already a mirror of your own state of consciousness. So it's very well to say, if only this person this, if this person just altered their behavior, if that person just altered their behavior. The universe is always reflecting your state. So you can want that as much as you want. But if you don't reconcile your own disharmony, your own inner discord, the part of you that is resistant to being vulnerable with the part of you that actually does want to share themselves, then the environment will never mirror harmony back to you. And if you think within yourself, I just need someone else to make it easier, or I just need a man to create space for me, well, what you'll find yourself doing is manipulating people. Because if you're in an environment where people are just following their nature, then everyone gets taken care of. It's like in the ecosystem that's thriving. The uniqueness of every aspect of that ecosystem is what enables it to thrive. It's almost a paradox, not really, but you've got a scenario where the diversity enables it to be diverse, but it's actually it's truly the uniqueness of everything, the uniqueness of what it expresses into that ecosystem. And that's what the universe is wanting from you. It's wanting you to express your uniqueness. And so if you are not comfortable bearing your soul, if you're withholding yourself and not sharing it, then the universe is always seeking to crack that open. And that's when the universe starts feeling antagonistic and like it's probing you, through people. But it's really up to you. And the more habit forming it becomes, to when you feel an emotion, to sink into that emotion until you can determine what it means. You feel it. Oh, this means that there's a part of me that's afraid of being humiliated. What does it mean to be humiliated? It means, if I'm humiliated, it means, what does that mean? You see? The idea of how it may turn out is so much worse than the truth of it. What does it mean to be humiliated? To be humiliated means you're disconnected from yourself. If you were to look at a state of being totally empowered in the truth of who you are, and you reveal yourself and share yourself with someone, that is a state of being in your power and expressing the truth of who you are. You're not holding it back. You're just expressing. You're allowing your nature to arise. And here I am. And so humiliation is when you withhold that, when you withhold yourself. And I think, from my own personal experience, I've felt humiliation many times in my life, and it's because I'm trying to hide. It always happens when I'm trying to hide myself. And, when you're trying to hide yourself, you're always trying to avoid being humiliated. But it's the thing you're afraid of is because you're trying to hide. So it's an interesting one because it's such an invisible barrier. The fear of being humiliated, it's crippling. But it's because you're withholding yourself that causes it to rise. So, yeah, easy to say, but it doesn't matter how many times you tell yourself in your head, oh, if I just bare my soul completely in this environment, it'll just be fine, because it doesn't feel fine. And, but, there's lots of really annoying spin-offs from withholding your nature, because it means that you're abandoning yourself, And so, you get other spin-off things like, having a fear of abandonment, that when the reality is that you're just constantly abandoning yourself, and, you're actually trying to get people to commit to you in order to negate your fear of abandonment. But meanwhile, you're still abandoning yourself all the time. So, you can see how these things all are kind of interconnected and all linked together. But ultimately, from my own experience, is that stepping out and allowing your nature to arise, expressing the truth of it, is actually the only way to negate, that fear of humiliation. And in the beginning, it just takes courage. It just takes courage. And, if it's like, when it's like when I started this podcast, I still had lots of fear. My fear was more around fear of persecution, fear of being rejected, fear of being shunned, due to past experiences I've had at school, and expressing my truth in certain environments, with school teachers. And, I'm very challenging by nature, and you can probably tell I've got some really out there views, and those views mean that I'm very unusual to other people. And, some of my beliefs are very triggering to certain people, and, I don't want to trigger people, but I want to be myself even more. And, this podcast has actually been extremely cathartic, because, I'm just not trying to please anyone. It's really a vehicle for me to express myself in the way that I want to, without even considering how someone else is going to respond to it. I'm not trying to do anything. I'm not trying to get people to change. I'm not trying to invalidate them, tell them they're wrong, but I'm just relentlessly expressing my truth. And it just feels really good. It feels really good. And, I don't want you to think that I'm like this perfect, enlightened being, because I'm just not. I still have fear of humiliation. I still hide myself away. I still try to fit in lots of circumstances, because I still feel so weird and strange. And these things are normal, And, what I've come to learn is that your authority is not in other people validating that you're really knowledgeable, or that, you're at the pinnacle of this, or you're really brilliant, or all that kind of stuff. Your authority is in expressing your truth. And so the best example I can give of that is that to express your truth is to show that you are inauthentic and authentic. That's what claiming your authority is. It's that in this moment, this is my truth, and I'm holding fear in this moment, and I'm allowing you to see it. This is who I am now. That's how you claim your authority. Rather than trying to get people to validate that you're just perfect, or, you're just incredible, you're flawless, that you know everything. No one does, because everything is valid and invalid. A truth only lasts for as long as the new perspective arising in relation to that truth. So to ever say that this is the truth, and to hold that perspective of a teacher and student, thinking that you have something to teach someone, inferring that they don't know something that you do, a truth. And, what I predict for the future for our schools and for the nature of our classrooms is that we won't have teachers in the future. We'll just have facilitators, who will facilitate the nature of the unique being unfolding. And their job will be to try and identify how that nature wants to unfold, and to lay breadcrumbs in front of that child to see where they go. This, and the teacher's just going, this. Well, how about this? Oh, you like that? How about this? What does that mean to you? What are you interested in about this thing? What is it about this thing that you're interested in? And you just allow the curiosity to guide them. Another breadcrumb. Just allow the curiosity to take the child. And, that's, of course, the basics, so they can integrate into society, of course. But it's like, you don't convey it from the perspective of, this is how you do it. This is what mathematics is. You're saying, this is my approach to mathematics. Everyone uses it in society. This is my approach to mathematics. This is how I learnt how to do a calculation. This is how I was taught to do a regression analysis. And so what you're doing is you're just saying to the child, something better could emerge one day. You could even come up with an even better way to calculate this. So you're never so arrogant as to say, this is the best way to do it, that there ever will be. Because, as we're evolving, and a lot of parents who have children with autism, or, highly gifted children, they'll know this, that the way children are evolving is that they're processing from the fourth dimension. So we operate in the third dimension, and so children can get the answers to mathematical equations without actually calculating, because the answer just arises in their imagination, and they trust it. And, this is nature arising. This is evolution. We're even coming to understand that we exist on dimensions that, many of us are unable to even perceive. But there are many, many people that can perceive these dimensions and actively engage with them and utilize them to reach higher and higher potential, as I keep saying over and over. But that's what this podcast is about. So, it feels like this podcast just ended up being a jam session, really. I could feel I wanted to talk about something, but wasn't really sure what direction it was going to go in. And, I think the topic of education and how we enable children to follow their nature in schools, and how parents free themselves up to make life easier on themselves just through understanding the potential of the children better. Because there's so much I want to talk about. It'll just go on and on and on. So that's it for now. I'm going to get some sleep. Catch you soon.